Welcome to today's lesson, where we will be dissecting the anatomy of a website. A website is comprised of a header, a navigation area that contains buttons, a primary content area, and a footer. Websites, or sites for short, are really nothing more than a flyer or brochure posted on the World Wide Web for others to see. Keeping them simple, without many graphical images, allows browsers to transfer data at lightning fast speed to the end user on a 28K baud modem. There's no need to try to be a fancy pants. You just need a web page online to show the whole world that your company exists. It's just like having a listing in the splendid yellow pages. But with a website, they already know the name of your company. So finding you really isn't going to be that difficult.
In the early days, it used to be enough to set up a simple website to plant your company flag on the internet. But over the past decade, the web has evolved into a complex ecosystem of interactive software applications that deliver information, engage customers, and automate business processes. Understanding how to properly leverage this digital ecosystem will allow you to generate more sales while maximizing your profits, reduce your costs, stimulate your company's growth and longevity, and create customer loyalty. Here to tell you more about it are industry professionals Steve Irola and Russell Fisher.
Everyone, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you to the TDANA for having us to be able to come and talk to you about this. I forgot to get this little clicky thing. Here we go. So I'm Steve Irola, and I've been in the kind of the tech space, doing graphics, media, website. I've been about every aspect of it for the last 16 years professionally. So I have a lot of fun doing it. I very much enjoy what I do. And like I said, it's a pleasure to come here and talk with you. And here also with us is Russ Fisher. And Russ, I'll let you give your own your little background here.
Like Steve said, I'm Russ Fisher. And I have a number of years running a family-owned business, as was mentioned earlier in our introduction. With that, we sell business equipment to business to business. And in my own challenges in that company in using web and all of the social media and things that are out there, we've overcome a lot of hurdles in that. In a kind of what I would say an uninterested industry, we've tackled some things that are making it more interesting. So with that, I come from a background of films prior to that, doing film work. I have a documentary film that's award-winning. We do a lot of commercials and corporate videos, etc. Kind of anything that's needed. We play with all the toys and drones and all that fun stuff. So that's my background, and back over to you, Steve, or actually back over to me. Kind of like what I said earlier is you have all of these things. You have Facebook and LinkedIn, and Google Drive and the cloud and Pinterest and on and on and on and on, Instagram, and some of you may be more into using these tools than others. And what I've seen, even in my age group and above, is quite a bit of confusion in all these. I think my parents at best are on Facebook, and that's kind of where it all ends. So with that, you have a lot of confusion in this arena, especially from a business owner standpoint, and bringing that even farther forward to your industry as how does this all work, and how do we use all this to, proof ourselves in the future.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like Russ said, I mean, there's so much changing out there now. Technology is changing so fast, and there's so much new things that are being thrown at you every day. So it's no wonder if you're confused. In fact, it's grown to the point where it's almost difficult for a single individual to know everything and stay on top of everything. I mean, I live in this industry, and it's hard to keep up with everything. So as such, we've really surrounded ourselves with teams and skilled team members who are able to contribute in their area of expertise, because we really have migrated into needing a team to do this. And the great news is I understand that it can be very confusing, but that's why we have organizations like myself that can come in and help walk companies through, and how do we use this, how do we leverage this information, How do we use it for our businesses? And that's basically what we're going to talk about. It's how do we begin to adapt to technology that's coming out there. And so that's what we're really here to talk about today, is adaptation to technology. And technology has changed, and we've all adapted. I mean, as a great example, how many of us have one of these? Show of hands. Who has a smartphone on them right now that you have? Yeah, almost the entire room, right? But it didn't start that way. We didn't start with smartphones. There was a progression of technology. We started out with these corded phones that were connected to a wall and had rotary dial. And then we kind of migrated slowly to cutting the cord there, and we were cordless phones, and all of a sudden we had cell phones that were like actually phones, like you picked it up and it had the primary function of calling somebody, and it had numbers that you could push on it, to basically a mini computer that we carry around in our pocket that has thousands of applications that you can install, of which one of those is like a phone to make phone calls. And sometimes it's hard to find that, then harder to find the place to make a call than it is the other thing. So the point is we've adapted over time. It was a progressive adaptation. And so your business is going to happen the same way. You need to adapt. You need to adapt the marketplace. With the example of the phones, we adapted because that's what the market was putting out. So as new phones came out, this is time for a new phone, or generations were texting, and so there's this texting thing, and all of a sudden now you're texting. So it was a progression. It's not where you jumped from that red corded phone all of a sudden to this. It was a slow progression and migration and integration of it. And so your business is pretty much going to take the same path, where it's an eventual migration of what's going on here. Next slide. Click. There we go. So with the transload industry, and I don't know if you can jump in here too, Russ, if you like.
Yeah, I've worked with Bill Elmore, the president of TDA, for close to 10 years now, for different web projects in different areas that he's been consulting in. And he came to me when we were going to talk here and said, I'd like you guys to come talk to this group about bringing web technology, social media, and video to this industry. What we understand, and we've seen that it seems to be that there's a decent gap here of, somewhat, when we've looked around at sites, not everybody's site in this room, so it probably doesn't apply to you, but an older looking site hasn't really been managed too much. There hasn't been a lot of creation that's gone into, keeping those sites up and whatnot. So we identified that this industry was definitely, that there was some need here, and we're currently working with Bill at one of your fellow businesses to start to change that and to change the vision and whatnot. So he has been kind of guiding us into the transload industry. We're by no means absolute experts at all in this industry, but we have some experience in it. And with that said, I'll turn it back over to Steve to...
Yeah, no doubt. And from what we've learned and talking to Bill and everything, we understand that the transload industry, and we know it's very traditional. It's very face-to-face, kind of old school, if you will, industry, where it's very personable. And there might be the question of, where does technology even play a role in this? It's not really changing the model. We haven't seen the model change. I don't want to say that the model hasn't changed, because obviously there have been advancements in each of what you do. But from the aspect of kind of web and media technologies, there hasn't been a drastic change. But the change is coming, as you're going to see. And I'd like to parallel this with another industry that has been around in the U.S. for over 100 years. Again, very person-to-person business, and that's the taxi industry, right? Again, very personable business. Not really much has changed. People need a ride from point A to point B. Taxi industry really doesn't see, say, technology as that high of integrations. Would certainly not see tech companies as a competing type company. And yet, this is a headline from the San Francisco Examiner just this January. Yellow Cab of San Francisco is getting ready to file for bankruptcy protection. And it's because of tech companies like Uber and Lyft, which were, and I don't know if you've heard of Uber and Lyft, but it's a mobile tech-based company where you can, request rides. You've got drivers. I'm sure most of you have heard of it. But it's a great example of where technology, somebody came in and kind of re-envisioned the model and said, we're going to start to use tech. And we're going to start to kind of change the way people interact with it. And this is what's happening out there. And so I just use this as an example because, again, here is a face-to-face type industry that we didn't really conceive that was going to change. And the industry itself, the taxi cabs, didn't really foresee it, because it's not just the San Francisco cab, it's cabs all across the US that are beginning to decline as companies like Uber actually just got a new injection, and they're worth upwards of $60 billion now, out of nowhere. It's insane. But it's because they began to leverage technology for this. And so because of the leveraging of technology, and with as quickly as things are changing, that those that are beginning to adapt and say, well, how can I integrate this model, are taking advantage in the field. They're taking advantage over their competitors. So here's a very interesting quote from Forbes that I think really sums it up. And it says, there's more evidence that every organization, whether they are in services, manufacturing, or healthcare, is becoming a technology company. And that is so very true. And what we do in every aspect, regardless of what type of business or service that you provide, technology is being integrated into your workplace. And you need to embrace that. And those that embrace it sooner are going to have advantages over their competitors. And so that's what we're talking about today, is how are some of the different ways that we can begin to leverage that? And really, what is causing the change? So let's talk about the millennial generation. So some of you may be familiar with millennial generation, but millennial generation is basically the new wave of customers employees. These are your customers employees that are upcoming. It's basically anybody that's born between 1980 and 2000. So this generation is having a large influence on the technology world, on the business world, and we're going to show you a quick little short video, I think it's 60 seconds long, to give you some stats on just how aggressive they're kind of, I don't want to say taking over, but we were joking, it's like a virus, that they're coming in. But we need to listen to them, because this is the next generation. These are your upcoming customers. Some of them are your customers now.
With over 80 million millennials in the US alone, this tech-savvy generation represents over $200 billion in annual buying power, and are projected to spend $1.4 trillion annually by 2020. With 87% of this group using between 2 to 3 tech devices at least once daily, they are considered the trendsetters across all industries. Consider these stats. 75% create a profile on a social media network. Millennials spend 22% of their 8-hour workday, that's nearly 2 hours, on social media. Traditional advertising methods are proving to be ineffective with this group. 62% say if a brand engages them on social media, they are more likely to become a loyal customer.
So those are pretty interesting stats on what's happening. And just going to expand these out real quick. So the change is happening really fast. In fact, data is showing that the changes are happening a lot faster than expected based on adaptation of technology and users using tech throughout the generations. And it's happening faster for a lot of different reasons. Number one, because you would think, okay, as these millennials get older, they're going to start buying more. As they said, their buying power is going to increase here over the next several years. But it's not just them. What's happening is they're beginning to influence the older generations. And some of you might be able to relate to this. I mean, for my own personal story, right? My parents were not on Facebook. They refused to text. I've got 2 younger sisters. But we began to put things up on Facebook. Oh, pictures of kids. This is what's going on. We're texting. My mother's actually a cosmetologist, so beauty salon. That's gossip central. So she used to be the one to tell me, "Oh, did you hear what happened here?" Well, all of a sudden I was on Facebook. She wasn't. She'd go, "Did you hear what happened there?" I'm like, "Mom, that's old news. I heard about that last week." "Where'd you hear about that?" "On Facebook." And so she began to jump onto Facebook. My dad, who would refuse to get on there, just began to jump on Facebook. My grandfather, who'd be 94 this year, is on Facebook. He's on Skype. He Skype calls me. But it's interesting because here is the older generation of baby boomers and beyond who are changing their habits based on what their children and grandchildren are doing. So because of that, it's not just a matter of waiting for the millennial generation to come in and start, entering the workforce more, and a lot of them are entering the workforce, already in the workforce, and our business owners, but they are affecting baby boomer generations too. And some of you might be able to relate to that story where all of a sudden you're starting to jump on things because that's what your kids or grandkids are starting to do. So that's causing the adaptation to happen a lot more quickly. Technology is becoming very accessible now. We talked about this being a computer that's in your pocket, but the computing power of desktop computers, laptops, is becoming more prevalent to users to be able to generate new technologies, come up with ideas. Models like crowdsourcing, where it used to be you have to have a big business plan written out, you've got this great idea for technological advancement, you got to go through investment firms. Now they've got models like crowdsourcing, where if somebody likes your model, they can donate to it, and all of a sudden they've got the funding to start taking off what they need. So this is causing rapid development in the technology industry. So everything is picking up very, very fast. So the point of all this is that it's really time to take action. You have to take action at some point in time or be left behind. And it's just a matter of taking that first step, again, to stay competitive and to begin to close that communication gap between these new generations and the new methods of communicating. And we may say, well, where are we going to start, right? We were talking about that earlier. It's like, where the heck do I start with all of this going on? It's confusing. And so that's what we're going to talk about right now, is just some different kind of highlights. And again, some are going to apply to you, some are not. That's the very interesting thing about this model and the technology resources that are available to you, is that the resources are there and they're very customizable to each of your business models, because everybody runs their business differently. But that's the beauty of what's going on now, is that it can kind of be wrapped around the way you do your model. And as you'll see at the end, we're going to talk to you a little bit more about that, but it's really about learning about how is it that you want to engage. You know that this is necessary, and you need to stay relevant, but how does that apply to your specific model? Not the industry's model, but your specific model. So number one is appearing professional, right? You want to appear professional to your audience. That doesn't go for the web. That's just common business, right? If you're running a restaurant, you want your restaurant to be presentable because you're being judged on that. But what we have to realize is that your storefront is beginning to change. So your users are not walking in a physical front door anymore. They're walking in a digital front door. We just saw the stats of what were going on with the millennial generations, how it's affecting it. They're looking up your website. We live in very interesting times. This is something that Bill and I were talking about, and Russ and I, is that it used to be, the advantage was with the seller because you had all the information. But today, that role's reversed. The buyer has all the information. They will know more about your business today than perhaps some of your staff members do, because they're searching you. They're going through social media channels. They're seeing what type of comments are being left. How does your company look? How does it appear online? And there was an interesting stat that was saying 43% of millennials rank authenticity over content, meaning if you don't look professional to them, they don't even care what you have to say because they don't want to hear. They're on to the next one. So it's that first impression that says, is this even somebody I want to listen to? Do I care what you have to say? You spend all this time writing out your content, but if you don't look the part, they're not even going to stick around to see what it says. And so again, this is your online presence. Mobile devices. We talked about everybody having these. Well, guess what? So do your customers. And in 2015, the amount of users that are beginning to surf websites with this has surpassed desktops. And so the question is how does your site look when you go on there? Does it look professional? Does it look current? Because we know that you provide a quality service, but you're being judged on how that looks out the gate for your new clients, for your new acquisitions. They're coming in and saying, does this company look professional? Because if you don't look the part, that's reflective of the service that you provide. Their mentality is if you're not looking to keep these types of things updated, well then where are you cutting corners on your services? Let's look the part. Let's give credibility to the services that you provide and do them justice. And that includes the mobile-friendly site. You don't have to do it now, but take a look up your website on your mobile device. How does it look? Because again, that's where a majority of your users are looking for you. That's where they're looking at your site. So does it look like it's very small text, hard to read, or things not in the right places, text is overlapping different images? It needs to be built properly, and the reality is if it hasn't been built probably within the last 4 years or so, it's probably not up to the latest standards. As we said, things are changing very, very fast. So you need to make sure that you stay up on those standards. So market visibility, this is another biggie, is making sure that you're visible to your users. And we put this saying, do you exist? Let me just kind of flesh these out real quick. So here's an interesting stat. 70% of the US population now has at least one social networking profile. So again, this is where they are living. They are on there. They are creating it. They're doing searches for you in these areas. The whole social media boom is very interesting. It's so changing the communication dynamic between just social interactions with individuals, business to consumer. It's really, really interesting the way it's adapting, and again, it's changing the communication model entirely. And you can see some of the stats there, but here was an interesting one, and that's 84% of CEOs and VPs say they use social media to help make purchasing decisions now. So again, these are your types of customers. They are going on, they are looking at what types of reviews are you getting. You want to control that environment. And so the moral of the story is you need to be where your customers are. 20 years ago, the same debate was happening with websites. It was, does my company need a website? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. And then all of a sudden it became, well, if you don't have a website, you weren't considered a professional company anymore. Because the user would start doing a search for you, and if you don't exist, they start to question your professionalism. Do you exist? Are you legitimate? And so this trend is starting to move to these other areas. And again, you don't necessarily have to run full campaigns. That may not be where all of your business is going to come from. And Rose, you can jump in anytime too, by the way.
I'm going to jump in now.
Yeah, jump in.
One of the, like I said, in running our own business, which I kind of test everything that I preach, I guess, but we're in an industry where we're business to business. We're selling business equipment, some of it quite expensive, and expensive software solutions as well. And so I've constantly been, and I still struggle with this today, but running into how does LinkedIn, how does Facebook, how does this actually work for my business model? Because it just doesn't seem to fit. It seems to fit for looking at pictures of the kids at the beach or things like that, but how does that work? And so one of the things that I've realized is, and our website, being web designers and whatnot, we have, I would say, in our industry, probably one of the most high-tech websites in our whole industry. And still, when I look at where my sales leads come from, they come from the phone number on the top of the page. We have contact forms, we have Facebook, we have LinkedIn, we have everything going on, and yet, day after day, the phone rings, and our receptionist answers the phone, and we get sales leads. So I look at that and I can say, well, I don't need a website then, but I also look at the fact that we're getting those sales leads, and that's what really matters. And a lot of those convert into actual sales on a monthly basis. So one thing I've learned is that the other day I was busily putting a new product page up, and my sales manager came into my office and she's like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm building our product page. And she kind of said, huh, and walked out. And I said, this doesn't even, and I told her, I said, this doesn't matter. We're putting a product page up here, not because I think people are going to browse our products, because we sell an expensive product. They want to talk to someone in person. What it does do for us, though, is it gives us search. And if for only one reason that we have all this data, our blog, our product pages, is for search. When they search our company in our town and in our region, we're generally the #1 organic Google search on pretty much any term you can think of relative to our area. And that's all we want to target because we're a territory-based company. We're not allowed to sell nationwide. So we target that. And so all of that work, all that social media work, and all these things we're talking about, YouTube videos and all that, results in someone calling a phone number. And I'm fine with that because when I look at the 5 to 6 leads I get per month and the amount of revenue that they generate, it's well worth all of that investment. And so I just wanted to make that point because, well, we're not the same industry as Transload. We have I believe, a much closer model to you as business owners as far as what you may be thinking about, why do I need to do this? And that's a good example as to why.
Yeah, no, that was a great point, Russ. It is. It's about having that presence. So although you may not be doing like an Amazon.com where you're having selling e-commerce type things, it's important that your company has a presence so people can see you and you become visible. So that's the main moral of the story. So let's talk about emotionally influencing your prospects. And this is a great example, which I'll let you jump in here too. But it's, we're living in an age now where it's provide information very, very fast. We want it now. We want information quick. We want it now. And that's where, again, the millennials are really coming in. These are generations growing up on YouTube. And YouTube is just, in fact, we have some really crazy stats. And Russ, I'll let you jump in here too. But two of the huge ones here, and this is why we're going towards videos, because videos help you convey emotion. It adds personalization. And it can really have impact. And so YouTube is a prime example of that. We have 1.3 billion users on YouTube. 1.3 billion. That is an amazing, staggering number. With 5 billion videos watched daily. You think we're a generation that likes to watch videos? Absolutely. And what's very interesting is that videos now are reaching, specifically YouTube, more 18 to 49-year-olds than any cable network. So it's shifting. Where we speak to them are shifting. So videos could be, and Russ, I mean, you obviously work in videos a lot, and so it's that emotional connection that you can get with the audience. And again, it used to be read. I'm going to read this long thing of text, and the fact of the matter is now a lot of people see that long thing of text and they're like, I don't have time to do that. I need to move on. So it's about creating these videos that will engage them fast, and whether that video is sitting over on social media and entices them to come to your site, which then your site, provides your call to action to call, to fill out your form, or whatever that is, but it's connecting the dots. So it's pulling them along the lines, but it's about emotionally engaging them. We actually do have a short video. Did you want to say something?
No, I was just going to say, with that said, we have a video.
There you go.
Videos have exploded onto the marketing scene as more and more businesses understand the power and influence they have on their prospective customers. A Forrester research study revealed that 60 seconds of video has the equivalent value of 1.8 million words on your website. The human brain processes visual images 60,000 times faster than text, allowing video to engage your visitors in a much shorter span of time. 70% of marketing professionals report video converts better than any other medium. There's no arguing that top-level company execs are extremely busy, so it's not surprising when a Forbes study revealed that 59% of senior executives prefer to view video over textual content presented on a web page. And finally, you can drastically increase your market penetration. Stats show that a whopping 92% of mobile device viewers share videos they watch with others. How's that for getting the word out? Plus, you are 53% more likely to appear on the first page of Google by simply having a video on your homepage.
So pretty interesting stats about videos. So very quickly, and we'll kind of go through this a little bit faster, but web and media technologies are not limited to just marketing. So we kind of call this section Beyond Marketing. How can you begin to use these beyond just engaging your customers? And there's actually quite a few different ways to do that. That you can use web technologies to begin to streamline your operations. And essentially these are things, oops, I went too far. We can begin to leverage technologies to start to automate your processes, to increase efficiency, basically lower your bottom line and maximize your profits. So these are things that all business owners are excited to hear about and want to hear about. So very interesting, this again was Forbes, I forgot to put the reference there, but use of technology in the workplace used to be considered forward thinking, but in today's world it's become a necessity. And that's really true. Again, it goes along with that statement that says all businesses today are becoming technology businesses in one regard or another. So I won't go through all of these, but these are just a lot of examples of how companies out there are beginning to use technology to extend their operations. So I'm going to give you an example with the first one, like automating lead assignments. And again, this is something that we were working on with Bill, with someone in your industry. Leads, right? So generating leads online. It's very common to have like a contact form, but here's a great example. This particular contact form would generate the lead and it would send it into a single individual within the organization. That individual then would determine what division or department or office at what part of the world it needed to go to so that prospect could be called back and got on the phone. And one thing that Bill and I talked about was it was very important that that time is as short as possible from when you get that lead, because you don't know how many questionnaires or queries that person has filled out. They may have filled it out at your place and at 3 other places. And whoever gets that lead first has a very distinct advantage. Well, the problem was, is we have leads coming in, they're coming into a single individual. What if that individual is in a meeting? What if they're tied up? What if they're not there at the office that day? Now the lead begins to backlog. It might be 2-3 hours before that lead gets dispersed. That might be too late. So utilizing web technologies, you can begin to automate and filter. Let's ask questions that are going to help determine what department this needs to go to. So that lead can be dispersed to the correct individual, and you kind of cut out the middleman, if you will, and it gets immediately to whoever hands that needs to be in, so that person can pick up the phone and make the contact with that prospect immediately. So that's a prime example of the way you can begin to leverage technologies on the front end that are interacting with your customers and prospects to say, let's start automating some of the processes that happen internally to become more effective. Staff training is another big one. So being able to begin to leverage cloud services, and we all know the importance of training, right? I mean, new staff members coming on, they've got to be trained. It can be very expensive. Your labor slows down because you've got already an employee that you're paying on the clocks, having to stop, and they're not at full capacity now because they have somebody in tow. You're paying double time to basically have something be done less effectively. But it's just the nature of the beast. But this is another example where you can begin to utilize technology to start training. So you can start centralizing your training resources. You can create kind of like a web portal that comes in. You can begin to communicate again with your future staff and employees, to begin to connect via the computer, to begin to use this, to begin to utilize videos, to personalize that experience for them, and to enhance the comprehension, because a lot of times you show something in a video, it's just hard for them to visualize, especially if you're new. So you can begin to help them lessen their learning curve. Interactive courses is great. You can actually begin to track progress of this individual, give them quizzes to say, to find out where are their weak points. And these are things that can be really hard to identify out in the field. And that would be great if you could identify in advance to say, okay, this person gets this or this or this, or have they read over this manual yet? And that's hey, have you read that? Sure I have, But this can actually track progress that says, hey, did they stay on that page for 10 minutes and read through this, course? So staff training, again, it's just another example of how web technologies can be used to begin to leverage what's going on. So we've covered a lot of stuff today, and we're wrapping up here. How do you figure out the best solution for your business? And I wish I could tell you that there's just a blanketed statement that I could tell you. We talked about some very generalized concepts, but the reality of the matter, as I stated earlier, is every person's business is unique. And it's really a matter of identifying what is it that your business requires. Everybody here has that part of the business, and there are probably many parts of it, that say, I wish this could run more efficiently, or how could I fix this problem? Is there something out there that could help me fix this? This is such a pain. There's got to be a better way to do this. And the answer might be that there is a solution out there to find for you. So we have a booth here, and we're set up. And we typically do a $750 business analysis. We know this stuff. We breathe this stuff. And so we're waiving the fee. All we ask is that you book it while you're here at the convention, just during any time during the convention. And we won't worry about doing this at the convention, actually doing the consultation. But we take time to talk with you and learn more about your specific business model. And then we can make suggestions. Tell us about your ouch point. What is it that you're wondering about, to say, hey, is there anything, this is my problem. Is there anything out there that you feel that would be able to help this? And we will basically give you a detailed report that says, here are our suggestions, here are the technologies that we know that are available that can probably help you solve that problem, or at least get you in the right direction. And again, there's probably many issues that you have and that you would love to adapt, but again, that adaptation can happen over time. You can slowly start taking care of this big problem and then start to chip away at this one and this one and this one. And so that's what this consultation is all about. And there's different ways that you can contact us. You can call that number up on your screen if you like. That'll call MindSlap. There's reps that'll be there to answer the phone. If nobody answers, just leave a message. We'll get back to you. You can text TDANA to that number if you'd like. They'll text you back and we'll set up an appointment. You can also visit the website, mindslapmedia.com/TDNA, and there's a form that you can just fill out that'll come to us. And again, as long as that's filled out during the conference, we'll give that to you for free. And of course, you can come visit us at the MindSlap booth. And we do have a few packages that we set up for you guys. We know that a lot of you will probably need kind of like a web type package, maybe like a social media presence. You might need a video. So we have some packages. We wanted to run some special discounts for you guys here. So come talk to us at the booth about those things. We'll kind of educate you a little bit more about what that details if you're interested. And that's it for the presentation. So come check us out. Come talk to us. We're here for the duration, and we'd love to chat with you guys. So thank you very much.